Now, the framers gave us Article 2 to create the presidency, but they didn't nail it on the first try. Think of it like rolling out a brand new prototype car off the line. It had all the horsepower, it looked good, but nobody had actually driven it yet. And once America hit the road, the wheels started wobbling, elections tied, presidents overstayed, lame ducks sat around while the country burned. Washington, D.C. didn't even get a vote. And nobody knew what happened if the presidency was alive but couldn't function anymore. So, over the years, the Constitution got a little bit of a tune-up. 5 separate amendments that kept the presidency from spinning out. The 12th, the 20th, the 22nd, 23rd, and 25th. Each one fixed a problem the founders either couldn't predict or didn't want to admit was absolutely possible. Welcome to our republic.
When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political band which has
sailors and airmen of the Allied Expeditionary Force.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the founding fathers. Not one small step for man.
Those 3 hallowed words reverently dictate what you ought to be, what you can be, what you will be.
we pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor.
Now, these are what I call the Presidency Amendments. Again, it's the 12th, the 20th, 22nd, 23rd, and the 25th. So let's talk about the 12th Amendment from 1804, fixing an election disaster. The original system had electors cast two votes for president. Whoever got the most votes became president, and the runner-up became vice president. My little cursor here has disappeared. Oh, there it is. Okay. Sorry. I have a lot of notes. I read through my notes. A little BTS for everybody. Anyway, the runner-up would become vice president. That worked in the no-party world of 1789. But by the 1800s, parties were here to stay, and the system blew up. Jefferson and Burr tied with 73 votes each, and the House was deadlocked through 36 ballots, while the country teetered on the edge of collapse. Alexander Hamilton, one of the people there, swung support to Jefferson, calling Burr dangerous. That feud later ended up in pistols at 10 paces, right? Go and check that out, right? The 12th Amendment cleaned it up. Electors had to cast 1 vote for president and 1 for vice president. No more accidental rivals. It acknowledged reality. Parties existed, and the system had to adopt. Okay, 12th Amendment. You know, it's a real brief description, but again, go and look at it yourself. 20th Amendment, 1933, the lame duck fix. Under the old calendar, new presidents and Congress didn't take office until March 4th. That made sense when counting votes meant riding a horse to the Capitol, right? But in the modern era, it was 4 months of dead air, right? The worst case, 1932. The Great Depression was crushing America. Hoover was done. Roosevelt was ready, but the country had to wait through winter while nothing got done. Hoover sat powerless. Roosevelt couldn't act. Banks collapsed. People starved, and the government just froze. The 20th Amendment chopped that weight. Inauguration moved to January 20th and Congress to January 3rd. No more endless lame duck sessions where defeated politicians could still make decisions for some months, right? We don't want that. The 22nd Amendment, the 2-term cap. For 150 years, the 2-term limit wasn't law. It was Washington's example. He stepped down after 2 terms and everyone respected it until FDR. Franklin Roosevelt was elected 4 times, 32, 36, 40, and 44. He led the country through the Great Depression and World War II, but Americans finally realized if one man can win again and again, he can become president for life. That was way too close to monarchy. So in 1951, the 22nd Amendment made it law. 2 terms max, or 10 years if you step in as VP. It locked in Washington's tradition and reminded the country that presidents are leaders, not kings. The 23rd Amendment, 1961. D.C. gets a vote. Washington, D.C. had a bizarre problem. It wasn't a state, which meant people living there, more than 500,000 by the 1960s, couldn't vote for president at all. They paid taxes, fought in wars, and lived under federal law, but had zero say in who ran the White House sitting in their backyard. The 23rd Amendment gave them a voice. D.C. would get electoral votes, capped at the number of the smallest state. That's why D.C. has 3 today. Not full statehood, not equal to the states, but at least no one was, at least they weren't silenced anymore, which I think is great. The 25th Amendment, 1967, secession and disability. This one came from pure fear. The Constitution said the VP assumes powers and duties if the president died, but it didn't say if they actually became president. John Taylor forced the issue when Harrison died in 1841 by declaring, "I am the president." That set precedents, but it wasn't law, right? Worse, there was nothing there for when the president was still alive but incapacitated. Woodrow Wilson's stroke in 1919 left him paralyzed and incoherent. His wife basically ran the country in secret, right? Same problem came up with Eisenhower's heart attacks. After JFK's assassination, America knew it couldn't leave things up to chance anymore. The 25th Amendment nailed it down. If the president dies, resigns, or is removed, the VC becomes president. No acting. They become president. If the president is incapacitated, the VP takes over temporarily until the president recovers. If the VP slot is vacant, the president nominates one confirmed by Congress. It meant the office of the president would never be leaderless again. I know those are really quick. We have so many more amendments to get to, which is why these were just brief. I know I didn't read the amendments like I did with the first 10. You can go back and read these ones yourself. Again, these amendments are the 12th, 20th, 22nd, 23rd, and 25th. The presidency didn't come out of Philadelphia ready for prime time. It just didn't. It had to be stress tested, broken, patched, and reforged by history itself. Ties, lame ducks, four-term rulers, right? Voiceless citizens, and incapacitated presidents all forced Americans to amend the Constitution, not to change the presidency, but to save it. I really appreciate y'all listening. And remember, history isn't boring, especially when 5 amendments written over 160 years were the duct tape and the steel bolts that kept the American presidency from tearing itself apart. See you next time.